My name is Amelia, and at 34, I was a widow, a title I never imagined I'd hold. 3 months ago, I lost Liam, my husband of 11 years, to the silent, sudden thunder of a brain aneurysm. Days after his funeral, a hollowed-out version of myself, I found myself at my nephew Leo's first birthday party. That's where my sister, Chloe, detonated a bomb in the middle of my shattered life. She announced to our entire family that Leo was actually Liam's son, waving a forged will that claimed half of my $800,000 home. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was the monumental, impossible truth that made her entire performance a dark comedy. If you're listening to this from a place where family drama cuts a little too close to the bone, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button, because you're gonna want to hear how I dealt with what came next. Liam and I met 12 years ago. It was a charity auction for pediatric cancer, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and quiet philanthropy. I was a volunteer, arranging silent auction items, when he captivated the room by outbidding everyone for a painting I'd been lost in all night. It was a watercolor of the city skyline at dusk, a bleed of fiery orange and deep violet across the harbor. After winning, he walked straight to me, the painting in his hands. "I saw you looking at this," he said, a smile crinkling the corners of his sapphire blue eyes. "I think it belongs with you." That was Liam. Observant, generous, thoughtful to a fault. I fell instantly. Our first date was the next night. It felt less like a beginning and more like a continuation of a conversation we'd been having our whole lives. He was a brilliant corporate attorney, but carried himself with a humility that was magnetic. He was the kind of man who remembered a waiter's name and asked about their kids. 8 months later, he proposed on that same harbor, the real skyline, a perfect mirror to the painting that had first connected us. We bought our Victorian home in a historic neighborhood shortly after our first anniversary. It was a financial stretch, but Liam had just made partner, and my interior design career was taking off. The house had bones, history etched into its high ceilings, and a small walled garden out back where I pictured a future filled with the laughter of children. Those children never came. Not for lack of trying. For years, our life was a meticulous map of ovulation charts, hope, and scheduled intimacy. Then came the cold sterility of doctors' offices, the endless tests, the invasive procedures. 4 rounds of IVF that not only drained our savings, but chipped away at our souls. I can still feel the profound silence in the car on the drive home from the clinic after the last failed attempt. Liam reached over and took my hand, his grip the only thing holding me together. No words were needed. "We can still have a beautiful life," he'd whispered that night on our porch swing. "You and me. That's enough." And I knew he meant it. We rebuilt our dreams on a new foundation. We traveled. We poured our energy into our careers, renovating our house room by room until it was a masterpiece of our shared taste. He was my biggest champion when I launched my own design firm. Our life was full, just different from the one we had originally planned. My younger sister, Chloe, however, was a constant, dissonant note in the symphony of our lives. 4 years my junior, she was the family's wild child, flitting between dead-end jobs and volatile relationships. Our parents, in their anxious love, enabled her, forever bailing her out of financial messes and making excuses for her behavior. It was exhausting. "She's your only sister," Liam would say, ever the peacemaker. "Family is important." 2 years ago, Chloe started dating Rick, a bartender with arms full of tattoos and a motorcycle our parents loathed. Their relationship was a public spectacle of dramatic breakups and even more dramatic reconciliations. Then, at Thanksgiving dinner, a year before Liam's death, came the pregnancy announcement. It was a shock. Chloe had always been vocal about her disdain for motherhood, calling my desire for children a pathetic submission to societal pressure. Yet there she was, performing a monologue about the miracle of life, complete with theatrical tears. A familiar, bitter sting of jealousy coiled in my gut. After all our heartache, Chloe had achieved it by accident. But I pushed it down, determined to be the best aunt I could be. When Liam was born, I was there with flowers and a hand-knitted blanket. Motherhood overwhelmed Chloe immediately. My phone was a constant stream of her panicked calls about colic or exhaustion. I stepped in, often taking Leo overnight so she could sleep. Liam, I noticed, kept a certain distance. At the time, I assumed it was the painful reminder of our own infertility. He was always kind, but there was a reserve there I never questioned. Then came that Tuesday. Liam complained of a headache before work. "Just a migraine," he insisted, kissing me goodbye. "I'll call you after the meeting." That call never came. The one I got was from the hospital. By the time I arrived, he was gone. He was 36. The following days were a fog of grief and funeral arrangements. Chloe was conspicuously absent, her excuses flimsy texts about Leo being sick. At the funeral, she was a fleeting shadow, leaving before anyone could speak to her. I was too numb to register how strange it was. 1 week after we buried Liam, it was Leo's first birthday. The last place on earth I wanted to be was a children's party, but my mother's voice on the phone was insistent. "Liam would want you to go. He always said family comes first." So I drove to Chloe's cramped rental, a gift on the passenger seat, the dark circles under my eyes a testament to sleepless nights spent reaching for the warmth that was no longer there. The house was a sea of blue balloons. A banner screamed, "Happy first birthday, Leo." I saw people I didn't know whispering in the kitchen, their voices falling silent as I passed. In the backyard, my parents sat at a picnic table, radiating discomfort. The air was thick with the cloying smell of sugar and something else, anticipation. Conversations died when I drew near. I chalked it up to their awkwardness around a new widow. 30 minutes later, Chloe emerged holding Leo. She wore a new dress, her hair freshly highlighted. She radiated a bizarre, manic energy. Tapping a spoon against a glass, she called for attention. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice ringing with performative emotion. "This year has been full of surprises, and I've been keeping a secret, one that I can no longer hide, especially after recent events." A cold dread washed over me. Something was deeply wrong. Her eyes found mine across the yard, a glint of triumph in them. "Leo is not Rick's son," she announced. The world tilted. I heard gasps, felt my father stiffen beside me. Amelia's husband and I had an affair 2 years ago. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. He knew the truth about Leo. Before he died, he updated his will. She held up a piece of paper, a document that she claimed would give her son, his son, half of the home Liam and I had built. Every eye was on me, a mix of pity and morbid curiosity. And in that moment, instead of breaking, a strange, chilling calm settled over me. It was the calm of absolute certainty, the calm of knowing you held an irrefutable truth that would incinerate the lie. "May I see that, Chloe?" I asked, my voice even. She handed it to me, her smugness faltering at my composure. I glanced at it. The forgery was laughably amateur. The legalese was clumsy, and the signature, while close, missed the distinctive loop on the L that I knew better than my own. I folded it and handed it back. "This is a conversation for another time. Today is about Leo." I said my goodbyes and walked to my car. the sound of confused murmurs following me. Once inside, the dam broke. Sobs racked my body. A hurricane of grief, rage, and disbelief at my sister's monstrous audacity. Because Chloe didn't know about the secret Liam and I had kept. A secret that made her claim not just a lie, but an impossibility. 3 years ago, Chloe made a drunken pass at Liam while I was on a work call. He told me immediately, troubled and disgusted. It wasn't an isolated incident. Flirtatious texts and uninvited visits to his office followed. He shut her down every time, and we decided to create distance. Then came the medical issue. Liam had required surgery for a varicocele. During the procedure, the doctor discovered complications and strongly recommended a vasectomy to prevent future health risks. It was a painful decision. Closing a door we had already accepted was locked, but we agreed it was for the best. The vasectomy was performed 2 years before Leo was even conceived. We told no one. After years of invasive questions about our childlessness, we guarded our privacy fiercely. After the surgery, Liam had said something that seemed paranoid at the time. Chloe's not done. One day, she'll try something drastic. The following week, we met with our attorney, Arthur Vance. Liam detailed everything, Chloe's behavior, the medical procedure. Arthur advised us to document it all. We created a file, medical records, text messages, a journal Liam kept detailing every unwanted advance. Liam also had Arthur draw up his official will, leaving everything to me. We put the originals in a safety deposit box, just in case, Liam had said, locking the box, though I plan on being around to deal with Chloe's drama for another 50 years. The morning after the party, I was at the bank. In the sterile viewing room, I opened the box. Inside was our disaster preparation kit, Liam's legitimate, notarized will, the medical records detailing the vasectomy, dated and signed, his journal, and at the bottom, a sealed envelope with my name in his hand. "My dearest Amelia," it began, "if you're reading this, the worst has happened and she has tried to hurt you in my absence. Please use these to protect yourself. I know your loyalty to your family, but you deserve to be protected from those who would take advantage of that beautiful heart. I love you beyond words, beyond time." Tears blurred his handwriting. My practical, thoughtful husband had armed me from beyond the grave. Arthur Vance's office was paneled in dark wood that smelled of old books and justice. He'd been Liam's mentor and friend. "I was devastated to hear about Liam," he said, his voice heavy. "He was one of the good ones." I laid out the story, the forged will, the documents from our box. "Liam was nothing if not thorough," Arthur murmured, examining the papers. "These medical records alone make her claim biologically impossible. This is attempted fraud, Amelia, a felony." He leaned back, his brow furrowed. "There's a motivation here beyond simple malice. People this desperate are usually cornered. I recommend we hire a private investigator." 3 days later, the investigator's report was spread across Arthur's conference table. Chloe was drowning. Over $90,000 in debt from credit cards and medical bills for Leo, who'd had surgery for a heart defect. She was facing eviction. Rick, the actual father, had abandoned them months ago and was wanted for unpaid child support for another child. Then came the printouts of texts between Chloe and her friend. "Liam's death is my golden ticket. That house is worth a fortune. My friend Dave is a Photoshop wizard. The signature looks totally legit. Amelia's always been the golden child. It's my turn." Reading the cold, calculated words made me physically ill. This wasn't desperation. It was a premeditated heist on my grief. "So what do I do?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I can't let her get away with this, but Leo is innocent." Arthur's gaze was kind but firm. He'd poured 2 glasses of whiskey, a ritual he and Liam apparently had. "You used to sit right where you are," he said softly. He told me once that the hardest thing about law wasn't the criminals. It was navigating the darkness in people you were supposed to love. He said, "My only job is to protect Amelia from the shrapnel." This, he gestured to the pile of evidence, is him still doing his job. We can press charges, or we can handle this privately, on your terms. You hold all the power, Amelia. The question is, how do you want to use it? That conversation was the turning point. It wasn't just about legal options anymore. It was about honoring the man who had loved me enough to prepare for a battle I never saw coming. I called Chloe. "We need to talk. My house tomorrow at 2. Come alone." She arrived radiating smug confidence. I led her to the living room, a voice recorder on the coffee table between us. After getting her consent to record, I asked her to tell me her story. She spun a detailed, rehearsed tale of a sordid affair. I let her finish. Then I started. "What hotel, Chloe?" "The Mandarin Oriental." "What side of the bed did Liam sleep on?" "What did he order from room service?" Her answers grew vague, her composure cracking. "Why does any of this matter?" she snapped. "It matters," I said, my voice dropping, "because every word you just said is a lie." I slid the first document across the table. These are the medical records for Liam's vasectomy, performed 2 years before Leo was conceived. The color drained from her face. These could be fake. They're not. And his doctor is prepared to testify. Next came the real will, then his journal, then the printouts of his texts. Finally, the investigator's report on her debt. "We know everything, Chloe." For a moment, she was silent. Then she shattered. Deep, ugly sobs of a cornered animal. "I'm gonna be homeless," she wailed. "I didn't know what else to do. You have everything." Her outburst, stripped of all artifice, was raw and pathetic. "So you decided to tell the world my husband was an adulterer?" I demanded, my voice ice. "You decided to desecrate his memory for money?" "He was always so loyal to you," she whispered, a confession laced with years of resentment. I sat back, the rage inside me cooling into a heavy resolve. "I could press charges," I said quietly, "but that would hurt Leo. And despite you, he is my nephew." I leaned forward. "So, here is what is going to happen. You will tell our family the truth. You will apologize publicly to me and to Liam's memory. In exchange, I will not press charges. I will establish a trust to cover Leo's medical and educational needs, and I will help you find stable housing." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Why?" "Not for you," I said flatly, "for Leo. And because the man you tried to defame would have wanted me to help his nephew. But there are conditions. Therapy, financial counseling, and you will allow me to be a part of Leo's life to ensure he is safe." The family dinner I arranged was the tensest meal of my life. In front of our shell-shocked parents, Chloe confessed everything. My mother, true to her form, immediately turned to me. "Oh, Amelia, you wouldn't press charges, would you? She's your sister." I felt something snap. "I am family too," I shot back, my voice shaking with a fury I'd never known I possessed. "Your daughter, who just buried her husband. Where was your concern for me when you heard these lies? You have enabled her entire life, and this is the result. It stops now. No more bailouts, no more excuses." For the first time, my parents were silent. Chloe, to her credit, backed me up. "She's right, you never let me fail, and it taught me I could get away with anything." A year later, I stood in the garden. Daffodils Liam had planted were a riot of yellow. So much had changed. The trust was in place, Chloe was in therapy and had a steady job. Our relationship was a carefully constructed truce for Leo's sake. My parents were learning to respect boundaries. I had started a legal education foundation in Liam's name, turning his legacy into opportunity for others. And then there was David, a kind professor I'd met. We were taking it slow. He knew he wasn't replacing Liam, he was starting a new chapter with me. Liam's foresight was his last most profound act of love. He had armed me not just with documents, but with the validation that I wasn't crazy, that the darkness I sensed in my sister was real. I had learned that family is not an unconditional pass for cruelty, and that sometimes the strongest love is expressed through the firmest boundaries. The most painful betrayals can force you to find a strength you never knew you had. You couldn't know what would happen, I whispered to the garden, but somehow you prepared me to face it. And in that way, you protect me still. If this story resonated with you, I have to ask, have you ever been forced to draw a hard line with a family member? How did you find the strength to protect your own peace? Share your story in the comments. Your experiences build a community for all of us navigating these difficult waters. Thank you for listening. And remember, healing is never a straight line, but it is always possible.